Hi, and welcome back to Pay Down Debt Solutions, or welcome to Pay Down Debt Solutions if you are just finding us for the first time. So, Dan and I bring to you Velocity Banking, and we do that because we have found ourselves in a lot of debt a few years ago as business owners and people who exited corporate America to run their own business, right? To chase the American dream, to build these businesses and, make all this money, right? But what we found is that we expanded these businesses pretty quickly and ended up in a lot of debt, okay? Just like you guys find yourself in debt, whether you're business owners or not, I know that you are sitting in a lot of debt because Americans find themselves in debt, more debt now than they have been in years previous to now. So, what we're doing today is we're going to talk about negative cash flow and credit cards. And I'm going to bring to you some statistics that I find very interesting. And I hope that you will find them too interesting as well. Then we're going to go over a student scenario, a student that I have. It's a woman who's on a fixed income, and she is in credit card debt right now with a negative cash flow. So we're going to show you how we would solve this negative cash flow problem when it relates to credit cards. But let's talk a little bit quickly about negative cash flow when you're in credit card debt and coming out of despair and finding new hope, because that is what this woman did when we talked to her this past week. So, some statistics you might find interesting because I sure did. So let's look at those. Americans nationwide rely on credit cards, okay? The average credit card debt is $6,473. This is up 160 from July of 2024. So this is climbing, you guys. And so if we can't find a better way out of our debts, if we can't find a solution to what we're doing that isn't working, and what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to use credit cards to eliminate your debt. And as unbelievable as that may sound, that is exactly how Dan and I got ourselves out of debt, by using credit cards. We started with credit cards and moved to other lines of credit, but this changed our life dramatically. And as an ex-banker and an ex-branch manager, okay, that was what I did before I got into my businesses. I didn't know how to do any of this, okay? I had no idea that Velocity Banking existed, and I sure as heck didn't know how to run credit cards in a way that would change my life. But I do now, and that's why we bring it to you, because we want you to experience the same financial freedom that we have found. We know it's a big deal. We know it's a heavy weight on your shoulders. We understand what it's like. So that is why we bring this to you guys every day, okay? So if we are up 160, okay, from July of 2024, then what can we do about it? How do we make this change? How do we reverse this problem? Well, some legislation might happen. So I've heard that, they may cap credit cards at 10%, which would be amazing. But right now, that is not the case. So we have to learn to do something different to change the trajectory that you're probably on, okay? So interesting fact is that Alaska has the highest credit card debt, and their average is 7,640, okay? Now we know that the national average is 6,473. And then Wisconsin has the lowest, okay? So Wisconsin sits at 5,154. Then you have the average interest rate for those credit cards, okay? So credit cards that are carrying balances, okay? So the average interest rate right now, as of 2025, is 22.25%. Now, those are for credit cards carrying balances. So let's put this into perspective for you. So if you make payments of $150 a month, okay, on a balance of our average here, the 6,473 at the 22.25%, you will pay more than double, okay? You will pay more than double, and your interest is going to be $6,936, and it will take you 90 months, okay? 90 months to pay that off. So credit cards are a problem. Credit cards are strangling, and they hold us down if we don't know how to run them a different way, a better way, okay? I would say it the right way, but it's not the right way for the banks, because the banks want to hold you in that debt. I mean, they just do, right? Because the longer you're in debt, the more interest they get off of you. So for them, if you sit in debt, they don't really care, right? Because they're earning interest off of you. But you and I care. We care a whole heck of a lot because it's our wallet and our pocket that it's affecting. So you can take these credit cards, these very same credit cards, and turn them into a tool, okay? you can turn them into a tool that you can use going forward so that you don't find yourself in situations like this woman is in right now. She has learned a different way, and she was in a lot of despair before coming to talk with us. And after, the hope and the relief that she has found has been life-changing for her. And I hope that this finds you with hope, and I hope that it's life-changing for you. So let's talk about her situation. Let's talk about what you can do if you're in a negative cash flow. Now, my disclaimer here is going to be, it does depend on how negative you are. We cannot overcome super negative situations, right? We just can't. Like, there's no way for me to create money for you. But by rearranging your expenses, okay, as interesting as that may sound and as unbelievable as it may sound, ask Dan, he didn't believe it at first. Rearranging your expenses can change much for you, okay? And this woman, it was in a cash flow of negative, a negative $70. So let's take a look at her situation. Now, we call all of you guys students that come to us and want to learn velocity banking, you're students of velocity banking. So I had a funny comment the other day that said something about a student, they can't believe a student could make that much or whatever. So they weren't actually students, they are students of velocity banking. You guys have careers out there, right? So I thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, so negative cash flow situation. We have an income of $2,970. Her total expenses are $3,040, which puts her in a cash flow of negative 70. Right now, her situation is that she's renting, and her rent is $980 a month. She has a car payment that she's been paying on it for a few years. She has a year and 1 month left, okay? So the interest that she has left to pay is $164. That doesn't sound like much, does it? And it's really not when you think about interest. But what you have to remember is that loans are front end loaded. So what does that mean? That means that when you get a loan, the very first few months or years, I guess I should say, that you have that loan, you are going to pay the most in interest those first few years, okay? So it's front end loaded with interest. And as the loan goes on, your interest gets lower and lower. You're going to pay more in interest and probably less in principal than interest in a lot of cases, all right? And so they're like an inverse relationship, all right? That's especially true with your mortgages. So in this situation, she's been paying on her car for quite a few years. She has a year and 1 month left, 13 months per se, okay? So her car is, the balance on that is $4,051. She is paying currently $350. It's at a 6.5%. And again, I told you 13 months, 164. She has a credit card. It's a Wells credit card, Wells Fargo. It is right about $8,000. That's the balance on it. It is maxed. Okay, so that's a maxed card. She owes monthly $360. That is her payment. The card is at a 27% interest rate. It will take her 2 years and 8 months to pay this $8,000 off, and she will pay $3,214 in interest. Okay, so that means her total interest debt for the car and the Wells Fargo credit card are $3,378. She owes a total of $12,054. She has in debt payment here $710. Now, she has other living expenses, obviously, but this is just the debt that she has and the debt interest. So what can we do for her? She's in a negative cash flow. She has a problem, right? Because every month that goes by, she's putting more and more on this credit card, and now she's maxed. And that is what brought her to us, because she really doesn't have anywhere to go with her credit card being maxed such as it is. So now what is she going to do? She's been living this way for quite a while. So if you think about it, and now this isn't going to include the interest, right, that on top of the interest, but if she has $70, okay, a month, and you times that by 12, that means every month she is getting more and more and more negative by at least $840, right? Now, this is a problem, and she has reached max capacity with the problem because that card is maxed out. There's nothing else she can do. She's in a negative cash flow situation. There is nothing else she can do. She has pared everything down. So she has done everything she can possibly do at this point to cut expenses. So now she needed a fix. And what can we do? So here's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to take a look at it. First thing you're always going to do, okay, in any situation when you're looking at debts, is you're going to, number one, our 3-step strategy. Okay. We have literally pared it down to 3 steps. I know everything out there on the internet says, oh, 3 steps to this, 3 steps to that. No, literally, this is 3 steps. I mean it. So it is 1, you're going to organize. 2, you're going to identify that debt destroyer and your plan. 3, you're going to implement it, right? 1, 2, 3, super simple. Nothing crazy, nothing dramatic here. It's very simple. But the first and foremost, most important thing you need to do is organize your comings and goings, right? What's coming in and what's going out. If you don't organize, if you don't have a clue what's going on in your accounts, you're never going to make it, okay? You have to know every dollar that's coming in and every dollar that's going out. And she does, okay? To her credit, she does. So she can't cut, like I said, she can't cut any more expenses. So now we need to identify here what we're going to do. Well, we only have one option. And it is a beautiful option because it is a line of credit already. She has a line of credit waiting for her to use the correct way. And so we're going to do that. So here we've identified we're going to use this Wells card as her debt destroyer. We know she has a maxed card. She will have to deploy the maxed card strategy, okay, the micropaying, which I have talked about before, and I will bring that out again at some point here. But she will probably need to deploy the max card strategy just to make sure they don't cut her limit on her card. Okay, so we got to watch for that. Now, step 3, right? 3 steps. Step 3, implement. She will start the pay down method. Now, what do we do then, right? So a lot of you guys have this question. How do I start? Like, what do I do? So now I know I want to use velocity banking. Well, what do I do next? Okay. And so one thing Dan and I have discussed is that we probably haven't told you guys enough, like what the first thing is that you need to do. Well, step 1, how do you begin? You begin with this. And let me use the correct color. You begin with your income. So what does that mean? Well, we're working with a credit card here. That is our line of credit. That is our debt destroyer. So when you use lines of credit, and specifically we're going to deal with credit cards here because that is what a lot of you guys need help with, are these credit cards. We have to break them into chargeable and non-chargeable expenses. And that is very important because there are certain expenses you cannot put on a credit card, all right? And an example of that would be loans and other credit cards. You can't run other credit cards through a credit card. You can't run your loans through a credit card. So you have to do something different. You would have to hold out those payments for those other debts that you can't run through your credit card and leave them in your checking account. And you're going to then pay them out of your checking account. Everything else that is a chargeable expense will be run through that credit card. So here is what I've done for you. I have shown you exactly what that looks like. We have available income, okay, and we have chargeable and non-chargeable expenses. So your chargeable expenses are your total expenses minus your non-chargeables. That's all it is. So let's deal with our expenses first, since I just talked about that. Our chargeable expenses, okay, our chargeable expenses equal our total expenses, which is here, $3,040, all right, minus your rent, because that is a non-chargeable expense, all right. Her credit card and her car are non-chargeable expenses. You cannot charge those. So that means her chargeable expenses are $1,350. That is the amount she can charge on her credit card. She will literally run every single expense that is chargeable through her credit card. So when I tell you it's all about rearranging your expenses, that is the difference. Currently, she's running everything through her checking account. We are stopping that and we are going to run everything through her credit card. We have to hold out certain things though, right? Just as I said, we have to hold out the rent and the car payment, but we are going to do something different with that credit card payment. So let's take a look at that. That's going to come into play when we talk about our available income. So her available income, okay, is the $2,970, which is her total income, minus the things she has to hold out of her account, right? So available income is her $2,970 minus her rent, minus her car payment, minus her Wells Fargo. Wait. But is it? It's not. And here's why. When you put your income onto a credit card, you satisfy that payment. You don't owe that payment anymore. So that payment, in a sense, if you need a visual, like think about it, in a sense, it comes back to you to help you work down that card. You don't get it as cash in your pocket, but it works down on the inner workings of that card. It works down your debt. Okay. So what she actually has here when we use this credit card as a debt destroyer, she has her total income minus her rent, minus her car payment, because she's got to pay these two out of her checking account. She doesn't have to hold this out of her income anymore because it's all going to be put back onto the credit card, right? All those chargeable expenses. So this will be taken care of or satisfied because she's putting her income onto that card as a payment. All right. So that means she has 1640, so 1,640 as available income to put on that card. She's going to run all of her chargeable expenses out of the card. So you can see there's a differential here. Dan loves that word. So that means that there is room here now, right? And there is a way to work down that card because we have flipped this negative positive by one move. One move. We did one thing different. We changed where we ran our expenses from. Okay. So we changed that. Now, by changing that, what does that look like for her in the future? So I am going to then erase my board. I'm going to show you what the work down looks like on that. Now, remember, this this car payment here has to be held out. She's got to let that run its course. We have a year, or we have 13 months on it, 1 year, 1 month. We have 13 months on that. So let's take a look at what this will actually look like for her when we calculate it and show you what her future will look like going forward. Okay, so I'm back with some results on the board for you. So what is she going to do, right? So that was the question. What is she going to do? Well, we know that we are going to be using our Wells card as our debt destroyer. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to add our income. Now, again, she will probably have to micropay, meaning she's going to have to break those payments up each week so that her credit card issuer doesn't drop her balance or drop her limit on her, I should say, due to the fact that she makes a chunk payment. Okay. Sometimes when you make a chunk payment and you're at your maximum, the credit cards can come in and lower your balances. Lower your limit. I keep saying that. I'm sorry. So they might lower your limit on you. So again, you can break those up into payments. So when your income comes in, you're going to be micro paying on that card. And again, I will go over that again another day. So here is what she will do. All right. So we know we have a balance of approximately $8,000. Her maximum on that card is $8,000. That is her limit. She cannot do any more than that. Again, that's why she came to us knowing she's got a situation here she has to do something about. Remember, she has been using that card to basically live off of, and because she's negative $70. There's nowhere for her to go. What's her plan, right? What's your plan after this? If you're in a negative cash flow, you have to do something. And Velocity Banking is one of the best ways to handle that, okay? Because of the fact that you get those payments back when you use your debt destroyer. As you know, one of your debts here is your debt destroyer that you use. You get this payment back to you so that it can help you work down the debt inside of that card. All right. So she has $8,000. She's going to put in $1,640 throughout that month. Okay. She's going to put a total of $1,640. Remember, our available income is that $1,640. So it drops her balance to $6,360. Now, again, remember the revolving lines of credit. What makes Velocity Banking work is the fact that you are dropping your balance significantly. Because these lines of credit are figured on an average daily balance, that means your interest is going to be dropping significantly, okay? So, and you can see that happening here, all right? So when you're dropping your interest by putting in more money, clearly that is going to help you at the end of the day by you paying less in interest, all right? So she brings in her $1,640, it drops her to $6,360. She has to add back in her chargeable expenses, so she does. And she has to add back in the $161 that is the interest, okay? So she adds that back in. So that brings her balance back up to $7,871 in month one of starting this. Remember, you start by putting your income in. All right, so now you got to run a check though. Could you be going in the wrong direction? Well, you can if your plan is wrong or if you're not overcoming the interest that you're paying, right? So here we have to do our checks. So she ends the month with 7871. That is lower than the 8,000 she started with. So her plan is working. She's going in the correct direction. She brings in her income again. It drops her to $6,231. Then she brings in the expenses. She charges her expenses through the month. The interest she still owes the interest. The bank's always going to get their money, right? So they get their interest. And it brings her back up to 7,739. Is this lower or higher than the 7871? It is lower. We are working. We are running smoothly. This is going well for her. Okay, so 7,739 income comes in, drops her to 6,099. Then we've got our expenses that come back in. We have our interest that comes back in. You can see it dropping. So she ends the month, I think that's 3, right? At $7,604. All right. So she is going to run for 13 months. Well, of course she's going to run it for 13 months because what gets paid off? This car ends up getting paid off in 1 year and 1 month. Okay. So that car is paid off. So for her, she's going to be getting some income back to her. Okay. But remember, she couldn't have gotten to this point without doing velocity banking. She couldn't have gotten 13 more months because she was negative and that card wasn't going to take any more. She doesn't have any other cards. I know you guys are sitting in the same situation, many of you, because we get it every day. So I thought this was an appropriate one to bring to you, an appropriate example to bring to you because so many of you find yourself there, okay? So here she is. She is going to be getting another boost to her income, right? Because at the 13th month, our balance is now $6,077. The interest we've paid up until then is $1,807 in 13 months. So now we start again we still are in our strategy, right? But at the 13 month, something happens that's different. And what happens? We get back $350 more. So we add $350 to this. So now we start with the 6,077, we bring our income in. And again, probably at this point, we're still micropaying, or maybe we are micropaying a little bit, bigger chunk payments each time because, we're paying down the balance. So now she's got 4,087 is a balance when she brings in her income. Then she's got her expenses. Expenses are still the same. And then again, we still are paying our interest. So we're at $114. She ends the month at $5,551, which is, in this case, here's where our starting point, right? Here's where we're ending. So is this less than or greater than this? Well, it's less than, so we are running in the right direction. So how long in total does this take her and what does she save? Okay, so this takes her a total of 21 months to complete. So it takes her 21 months. She runs this section down for 8 more months and then she's paid off. Okay, this card is paid off at that point. So we ran this for 13 months. We ran this for 8 months. We spent 1,847 here. We spent an additional 565 in interest here. So our grand total is 21 months. And we spent $2,576. Now, over here, doing it traditionally, which she can't do, right? Because she's stuck. She's negative. So she can't this wouldn't even happen because she's negative or was negative. So here, 3378. Here, 2576 with positive cash flow now. So she's not stressed. She's not struggling. If anything happens and she needs new, tires on her car or something, she can, because she can absorb it in this card because now she has availability, right? She has that purchasing power on that card that she could do whatever she needed with, okay? Hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does, it's okay because now she's not negative anymore, right? So you guys, this is the power of velocity banking, all right? This is the power. Now, she saved what? I think $804 or something over the course of what she would have paid here had she been able to do this, but she can't, okay? And here, the 2576, so it's about $800 that she's saved, which at the end of the day, I'll take $800 and a positive cash flow over this stress all day long. You can imagine the relief she felt. And you can imagine the relief you will feel once you learn a different way of banking, to kick the traditional banking style to the curb and try the pay down method. Organize, identify, implement. That's all you need to do. Once you've identified that strategy, the world of possibilities open up to you. How do I know? Because we did it. We know what it's like. We know what it's like. We are you guys. We are. So if you need any help, you know where to contact us, info@paydowndebtsolutions.com. If you guys want worksheets, 100% we will send you worksheets. Just throw us an email. Let us know you would like the worksheets and we will send them off to you. That is fee-free, of course. So have an awesome day, you guys, and I will see you in the next video. If it's not me, I think Dan's got one planned for you. Have a great day.